Welcome, everybody. So good to have you all here. This is quite a unique, I know it's labeled radical non-duality, but this is beyond words. It's what wants to be shared, or the message is the me is already not there. There's no me controlling anything, doing anything, making anything happen. There's no me getting frustrated, no me getting angry. There's just no me. And that doesn't mean that anger or frustration or stress can't arise. But what it is saying is it's not yours simply because there's no you. And what's not there can't have anything. And so now the voice in the head or a thought is seen for exactly what it is. A thought is just a thought. It's not me. A story is a story. So some stories are funny and some are boring. What are you going to do? But they're seen as stories. And for the me, that's the unpleasant part, is the stories are not, they're my stories. And that quality of my seems to is experienced as suffering, at least here. So naturally, the imaginary me tries to fix things or get things out in the world that will satiate that hunger, that seeking, that satisfaction that it's so desperately seeking. And, that was never you in the first place. You've never, you don't know how to seek. Actually, you don't know how to do anything. You say, I brush my teeth. Well, if I asked you how you engineered that, I would pray tell you couldn't tell me. And so if a feeling of a me is arising, then that's just this arising as a sense of a me. It's still not you. But this can be heard, and it's the end of the need to seek for freedom, because it's seen, oh, the freedom was always here, but not when I was here looking for it. I was too busy seeking. This was not seen as freedom already. Like freedom doesn't go away just because I imagine I'm seeking. So because I'm seeking, something's really wrong. But no, life doesn't hear that noise. Life's whole and complete, like it or not. And it's everything. It is everything. So even the one imagining it's worrying is this. So if there's already no me, then who is there to be liberated or imprisoned or anything? So it can imagine anything. So I can imagine myself in a fix. So that's all imagination, but I'm not doing that. You're not doing even that imagining that you're in a fix. That's just what's happening. But if you just, I don't know how to explain it, but it'll move on by itself. You don't have to actually do anything. There's already no you to do anything anyway. I mean, I could tell a story. It's sort of what falls away is the imagining that there's someone here that can do something about what is, about what's happening. So there's no longer a sense that there should be something other than just what's happening. And with the me, it's always about other. It's never about just this is just never enough as it is. But without other, if there's just this, so other is sort of what me imagines there is. There's other, there could be other worlds, other people, other countries, just other. There, but that's just a fantasy. There's no separation. And this is free to appear however it wants. It's nobody's doing it. So it's the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, the bedazzling, the frustrating, the depressing, all of it. Amazing. It's this right now. I mean, what do you want? And that's actually a good question. What do you want? Because if you sit the imaginary me down and asked it what it really wanted in its heart, it couldn't really tell you. I mean, it might say something vague like, well, happiness or peace or money or fame or God, right? God knows what. But all those things have been tried. There have been people with a lot of money. There have been, right? And it never, so here I was like, I don't think anything works. So there was a full resonation with there's already no me. Like that just resonated so strongly because I'm like, oh, that would explain why you can't get rid of it. kind of explained, I'm like, yeah, if it's not there, then it wouldn't matter what you try, but go ahead and try. Like, that's what I love about this message is it doesn't poo-poo any tries. So stand on your head, meditate, ride a camel to see the Dalai Lama. It literally doesn't matter. It's so like free. So this is an open meeting. Everyone's invited to participate. If you have a comment or question, please unmute and jump in. If I were to tell a story about the me, just a story, but I would, if I used a label, somehow it's sort of like a persistent assumption, a persistent assumption. Have you ever had an assumption where you thought something was a particular way? You were just sure of it, like 100%, and you come to find out one way or the other, you know, that you were just flat out wrong. Like the way you were seeing it or holding it is just like pulling the rug out from under you because you were so sure. And if you've ever had that happen, I've had it happen, and I was just so sure. Just, yeah, no, no, completely couldn't be more wrong. So that's the me. It feels like it's here. It sounds like it's here. It looks like it's here. It quacks like a duck. But when it's looked for, when the me is looked for, it can never be found. And so life just goes on as it had, but without that overlay that I'm doing, making shit happen. That's the freedom, because that overlay of I'm the doer is trying to get control. It's imagining that I know things. Dan did a nice video on knowledge. That's the me's currency is knowledge. So the more knowledge, the better. And the more knowledge, the more I can control, it imagines. And why does the me want to control? Well, obvious, it wants to be safe. Control is all about safety for the me. The more I can control, the more my safety is assured. The less I can control, could be a problem. So, so this pops a hole in that whole world, that whole story, that whole system. This just like takes a pin to the balloon and it just pops it. It says there's never been a you. So all that was imagined.
Michael, I think what happened here, or what's happened with this me, is that I've looked from most of my life, I've looked in different philosophies. I've looked in Christianity, and I've looked in a whole lot of areas and a whole lot of things. And there was, until I came to this message, this radical non-dual message, nothing would shut the voice in my head up. And I was looking for something that would shut that voice up from its whinging and complaining and judging. I think I was looking for that for years, decades. And only when I come here, it can't go anywhere. It just shuts down. It has to. And that's the beauty and the draw card for me.
Yeah. No, I totally hear you, Faith. And it is, you know, even the word, I was thinking just before this meeting, even the term radical non-duality doesn't really even begin to do this justice, what's being pointed to. Because even the me thinks, okay, well, radical just means, you know, even more, you know, somehow. No, this isn't about more. It's just saying there never was a you, and it's not even your fault because there's never been a you. So you can't even blame yourself or go the guilt game that, oh, I should have known. Why didn't I'm, you know, I'm 900 years old now, but if I had known this when I was 30, no.
Completely shuts it up. And I think that's what happened when I first heard Nkosi, when he first came on. There's absolutely nowhere to go. It's just shut up. And it still happens. And that's the beauty for me.
Yeah, when Nkosi and I were videoing a couple days ago, I asked him if he remembered coming to our meeting, and he did. You know, because first he did a post, and then he made a comment on one of my posts, and his comment was, whether there's a me or not a me, this doesn't mind. It doesn't matter, he said. And some was like, wow, that's so freeing. And then I said, you remember when you cried, Faith? And a couple of people cried the first, and then Kosi corrected me. He goes, well, no, he goes, the first time I came, this is so funny. Nkosi told me the very first time, he said they cried at the second meeting, the second time he came. Yeah. So I said, well, what happened the first time you came, Nkosi? He said, I asked a question. I said, you did. And then when he said this, he and I burst out laughing. You guys know Charles, right? Charles, he goes, I asked a question and Charles gave me an answer. That's what he said. It happened the first time he was here. We both started laughing. I just think that's so funny. So there are no answers. Like that's the freedom. So everything's it. So it's already everything's it.
Charles, there's no question about.
I want to go back and see that meeting now and see what Charles said to him. But the second time Nkosi came is when that meeting was so powerful, Faith, because I think you and Alice, and he spoke with such a booming authority, such self-assurance that a mortal, somebody just believing what they were saying, wouldn't possess. It rocked, like we all just, the silence just, and the tears, the tears. Spontaneous. You guys just, it just happened. I just heard people crying instantly.
I think it was tears of relief, in a way, that finally that voice in my head has been shut down. Just, relief, and also like I'd never heard anything like it before.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly when I said radical, the term radical non-duality doesn't begin to even touch. And it's so unspeakably, you just can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Oh, this was my comment, Dan, after watching your video, I was going to tell you this. Yeah, your video on knowledge is me. And what came to me was, yeah, once I know I'm a me, I know that that's a street light. To know anything is to know something. And this message isn't about knowing. Knowing is for me, right, Dan? Knowing is for me.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we can talk about there's a kind of knowledge that has nothing to do with me. It's just a function, the way we know how to cross the street or whatever, or know how to do things. It's a function, it just happens. That's part of this whole whatever it is. There's this thing called there's a kind of knowledge that's just a functional part of everything. But the knowledge you're talking about, the knowledge, when you know a street light, that's already become part of a story of me. That street light is a street light for me. It's just the street light because it relates to me. It really, because I said it's a part of a story of how this world is for me. And that's what we're talking about with knowledge, and you can't separate me from knowledge. And it was interesting that you were talking before about stories, how some stories are boring and some are funny, I think you said. Well, actually, no, stories aren't really boring or funny. The stories are just stories. So to say that a story is boring, well, there's the me there, right? It's the me that's saying it's boring, right? So, and that is a story. To say this story is boring, is a story about, me. And that becomes, okay, so I'm telling a story to say, well, to say that a story about the story that something is boring is a story, well, that's a story too. So there's your turtles all the way down. Point is, everything is a story. But then there's this thing, what did you call it? An assumption? Something like a presumed assumption. I forgot what you said. There's this assumption.
Persistent assumption.
Persistent. persistent assumption.
That's just as a story.
Yeah, this persistent assumption is that all of this is related to this thing, me. The me, yeah, is the persistent assumption. That,
Well, I just want to say that there's still no me here. So if something feels boring, it could be goddamn boring. It doesn't matter. There's still not a me there doing it, whether you label it or
well,
don't.
yeah, the point is that boring isn't really boring, except as an assumption by a me. The point is that the me is what makes this all to a real thing rather than a story. A story is, everything is a story, and this story doesn't stop. The story is just everything appearing. But this me is this assumption that turns everything into something real. Because it's for me. But that doesn't happen. I mean, it doesn't actually become real. Just doing that, in other words, stopping this cycle of story about story about story about story. That's what the me is. The me is that stopping place where it says, no, it's not just stories. It's actually something real, something I need to know, something that matters because of me. Because I have this, because my story is real and this story relates to me. I'm trying to do this thing of getting, well, you said safety, keeping things safe, yeah, but also getting to where I'm going. Safely, yeah, but I also need to get there. That's, and the story relates to all of that project of getting to where I'm going. So then it's not just stories about stories about stories, stories telling stories about stories. It isn't that anymore. It's a story about me getting to where I'm going and staying safe. But then, as you often say, well, yeah, but look for that me. Where is it? Is it here? Well, if you look, if you look, all you find is another story. You don't ever find that me. You don't ever find that stopping place. And there's no stopping place right here. This is it. This is it going on. It's not related to a me. It's not, nobody knows what this is. The me is the one who is trying to know what it is so I can use it to stay safe and get to where I'm going. And that's a story, but doesn't seem like it. Okay. Well, I mean, Nkosi said, I I remember that Charles asked a question, I asked a question and Charles answered it. Now we don't know what was what was going on there, but that is the me. The me is this just this energy of asking a question and getting an answer. And I mean, I'm sure when Nkosi, whatever question Nkosi asked, he wasn't looking for an answer because there is no Nkosi. If there was an Nkosi, we're talking about me, it would have to be a me. And then that would be a looking for an answer for me. But there isn't an answer and there isn't a question. This is not a question that can be answered. And it's not an answer to a question. All of that is just a story that relates to a me trying to get to it and stay safe, as you said. And that's a story, but a story doesn't produce a me. The me just turns out to be another story. Any me, that we could. It's funny. And I like. It was interesting when Faith just was talking and she said, when you referred to the me that is here, or the me that is Faith. This me, I think, is what you said, as if there's more than one me, as if there are different me's. And I mean, I understand what you meant, but you meant the person Faith. But there aren't different me's. There is no this me and that me. There's just this, we call it energy of me or whatever. But this doesn't have to do with anyone. But it's just this, it turns everything into a story that's related to something real. We call it me. Anyway.
Yeah. So it can be noticed that that's all based on knowledge. What Dan's describing is all knowledge. It's all what I know. I know so much. And again, that once I know I am, then I know, it's endless. That first step of that I'm actually here. But, again, I love Nkosi's, you're here as what? Right now. What do you take yourself to be?
Because there is no what. Every what is just another story. That's why we say what, the real what is this. What is. We call it this because there's no word for it. But it doesn't have a story. It's not a story. It's not going anywhere. It's not
Yeah.
getting to anything.
And so another word for story is other. The story of other.
Right.
Story
Well,
of
that's your duality, and that's why we have this word non-duality. Me is projecting a world as a tennis game where there's that one on that side and me on this side, and something going on back and forth, and we're getting somewhere. It's a good story, but that isn't actually anywhere. It isn't what this is. Except it is as an appearance. It does appear that way. And there's all the stories that we can make out of all of that. But when we get down to it, it's this here right now. This Zoom meeting, which we can't even begin to say what it is. How many people are here? How many, what is this? And it's this already, and it's this always, it's this, no matter how it's showing up, no matter what stories are being told.
So it doesn't matter what the me does or does not do, because there's already no me there.
So if we really get that, we don't even have to worry about stories or anything.
So freeing.
Hmm,
Yeah, good
Yeah,
point.
good one.
Yeah, you're right, Alice, because as a me, I'm always concerned with, story. The right story, fixing a story.
And Alan is a little slow on the draw here, so I'm going to step in and say, and of course, the worrying about the story is it too. So you can't escape.
Yeah, all is this, and the word already. I mean, that was the word here. I'm like, well, wait a second. Already means already. Now, it either is or it isn't already. And that's what, again, just to tell a story, was gone into here. Like, well, if there's art, but it was more felt. It wasn't really done because I tried the doing. I tried the seeking for the I am and all of that, and none of it worked. None of it. And then there was just a resonance with already there's no me.
And if it wasn't already, then it would have to be something that we could get to in some other, it would have to be some other thing, right? You said that. But how could we do that? How could we get something else except by making a story of going somewhere and getting something? Or having something change, having another thing that's different than this thing. That's what the story is. This thing isn't a thing. It's this. It isn't changeable. It isn't, we can't turn it into a story and get to some other thing. Not really, except as a story.
Yeah, this never moves. This never goes anywhere.
But but the fact that there is no me and that's all stories doesn't preclude me from trying to make my story better than it is.
Yeah, is it absolutely no trying to make your story fine, better is fine. It's just not you doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is me. Me is trying to make my story better. That's what that's what me is.
Yeah. But
And that appears, yeah.
yeah, but that's part of the deal. That's what makes life interesting, I think.
Well, yeah, it to the me.
Yeah.
But that me is predicated on separation. There's me in a world.
Yeah, but then the underlying thing for me is that that it's all made up and it's all imaginary, and you'll shoot me down in flames. But when things, when things go wrong here or uncomfortable, is a great relief to remember that underneath it all, it's all just stories and imaginary.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know, because the language and everything, I get into trouble with being a me, and
There is no me, so you can't get in trouble. There already isn't a me, so the me could do whatever it wants. That's the freedom, Faith.
yeah. It's just that I sort of feel like if there's no me, then there's nothing to do, and there is nothing to do, but there's also are things to do.
Yeah,
There's nothing to do, but there's things to do.
yeah, but listen, the message that's being shared here is not saying there's not a me there now at this moment. It's saying there never was a me.
Yeah, and I love that too, but
So your whole life, all the dating and growing up and playing was all this, not you.
yeah, I suppose I'm sort of trying to take it as a belief system, and it doesn't work like that. You can't use this as a belief system, really. Because that doesn't exist either. But yeah, so then you're just playing in the imagination, I guess.
Yeah, there's just what's happening without being lost in stories and an imagination, which is, the realm of the me. Then there's just what's happening. Sipping tea, having a Zoom meeting, sharing.
Going to the doctor because your leg hurts.
Yeah.
Hmm. Finding a quiet spot to meditate rather than in the noisy.
The jackhammer.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really the simplicity and the beauty of this effortless and obvious, is because it's already everything. So you can't outrun that. You can't have a thought that's not this. You can't have a feeling that's not this. You can't have a pain that's not this. You can't have a laugh that's not this.
Mm.
This is a really good meeting.
Thanks, Alice.
Hi, Nkosi.
Hi, Nkosi.
Hi, Alice.
Those
Hello,
are-
everyone. Hi.
Hey, Nkosi. I have a question.
Yes.
If there was no language, would the me exist?
Yeah. It doesn't exist already, whether there is a language or no language. But as there is a language, it may seem as if it may be imagined that's as if it's there, but it's never really there, In the story, it may seem to be there, as if there's a real me who's going there, who's going places to fix things, this and that. But in actual fact, there is already no me. When there is a language, it may seem as if it's there, but no, it's all imagined. It's all imagined. There is no me already. Even thinking that seems to be happening, it's just words that seem to arise. They may seem to say, oh, now, ish, I'm not getting it today, something is not quite right today. That's the language that seems to be going on in the imaginary mind. But let's say, as we are saying, if there was no language, what would happen really? Can such communication be possible? Can the characters relate to each other if there was no language? Can even what seems to be the separate self be there to claim that I'm a doer of all things? So it doesn't really matter whether there is a language or no language, but the me is not already. It's just this appearing as everything, appearing as a language, labels, thinking, which also includes language, because there'll be no thinking without language. What's there to say without language? What's there to even discuss about? So it's all just a play. It's nothing, it doesn't need to be taken seriously. So this can never be known. This can never be understood. This can never be gotten because there is no separation. There's no one outside of this to know this or get this or become one with this. There's already this, which is everything. And what seems to be a you who's looking for it is already this. There's no one already who's looking. There's no one who's searching. There's no one who is tired of life, who wants to give up. There's no one who's angry already. All the appearances don't belong to anyone. It's just totality appearing as that. Even appearing as the one who seems to say, I hate this message. This message is driving me crazy. It's all just this appearing as that. So it may appear to say, oh, now I think I'm giving up. It's been like 45 years I've been seeking for this, but I don't get it. That's already totality, everything, this appearing as that. So there is already no you to find this. There is already no you who has been seeking for this for 40 years, 45 years. There is already no you who has been searching, who's even living life, who's a possessor of life. There's just this. And this has no future. This has no past. This has no present. This is not moving. There are no steps already. There's nowhere to get to because there's nobody to even travel. There's nothing to be done. So this looking that seems to be happening right now is not somebody who's looking. If it seems as if there's somebody who's looking, that's imaginary. That's just an imagination. Somebody who seems to say, I'm looking at this computer screen. There's nobody there. There's nothing there. There's just looking. There's just seeing, but nobody's seeing and nothing is seen. And this seeing is not local. This seeing has no center. But when there is an imagination that seems to appear in this, that seems to say, I am this body, then it may seem as if it's a local seeing. It has a center, but there's no real center. That's just imaginary. It's an imagination. It's already not local. It's vast. Everywhere present is nothing. What you really are is not trapped in that body. What you really are is not limited by the walls of the room. What you really are is not limited by the country. It's not limited by the world. It is already everything. It's already everywhere present. There's nothing. It's not a man. It's not a woman. It's not a human being. And it's going nowhere. It has never gone anywhere. It can never really be found because it was never lost. It's already effortless and obvious to itself. It's already that which is looking. With or without any thinking happening. So there is already no local eye who's looking, who's searching. That eye is not personal. That eye is vast, is everything. If something seems to say, I'm seeking, I'm walking, I'm doing, it's not separate. It's just one eye, which is everything. It's not the eye of a woman or a man. So that which is looking for this is already this. With or without trying to be this. So there's nothing wrong or right here. Anything may happen, anything may arise. Meditation may happen, seeking may happen, wandering may happen, thinking may happen, but it doesn't belong to anyone. It's just what seems to be happening. That's what's coming up here.
Any last comments or questions before we close out this evening?
Nkosi, I liked your last talk, how you said shining sign doesn't have to try to shine.
Yeah, it's effortless. Yeah.
Can you repeat that, Leighton?
A shining sign doesn't have to try to shine.
Okay, good one.
That's sweet. Yeah, it's already shining right now as everything.
Yeah, and the trying is always going to be a story. It doesn't have anything to do with the shining. The shining is always here. The stories are great. Let them go.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming, each and every one of you. Nkosi, no words. Good night, everybody.
Well,
Night.
Good
Hi,
night.
everyone.